Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Um, I'm honored to open this up for Dr. Rakowski. Not only has been a really good friend to me, but a mentor now, not only in my health, my family's health, but also both of my pets now. Harley, who I had for 17 years, in the last 2 years of his life, I reached out to Dr. Bob after he had a massive seizure, and I asked, can I give the dog Ganoderma? And he said there's actually been studies where they have given Ganoderma to dogs in large amounts with no toxicity levels, and I'm sure Dr. Bob will touch on that later. And obviously, then when Amadeus came into our lives, we started him right away as a pup. From Marlene, she's a great breeder, and she's had some great stories of her own with her litters that she had in Amadeus's litter and the one right after that. So I know that Dr. Bob has traveled the world and helped thousands of people, and I'm sure their pets as well. So I'm honored now to pass this over to Dr. Rakowski. And Bob, please, if you can share your wisdom with all of us and enlighten all of us on how Ganoderma is good, not only for us, but for our four-legged friends.
Well, thank you for that wonderful intro. Just for the sake of cutting the crosstalk, I'm gonna mute you, but feel free a moment in time to unmute. So one thing I like to tell people is certainly I'm not a veterinarian. In fact, I'm actually an expert in human health. And I've traveled the world and I've lectured to all kinds of audiences, including doctors of a number of different professions, including a major dental conference talking about integrative medicine in Chicago. So I've seen, humans ranging from the critically ill to some of the most elite professional athletes of all time. So someone might ask, well, how does that qualify me to talk about dogs? And reality is it really doesn't. But I will share this data here. And that is that human beings and dogs actually share 84% of their DNA, which is really pretty remarkable. And then you look at the line right below that, it says that makes dogs actually very, very useful to study human disease processes. So when we start looking at what can happen with dogs, this is actually a dog website, right? Dogs Naturally. And it talks about reishi, which is actually the same thing as Ganoderma, right? And really clever title you came up with, so I appreciate that. 4 legs are 2. Ganoderma is actually really, really good for you. I'm gonna hit some mute buttons. Somehow some people are unmuting as we're going. So we'll try to make that sound quality a little bit cleaner. But Ganoderma is also known as reishi, also known as lingqi. And this particular website said it's actually really good for cancer, human cancer, dog cancer, and we'll show some case studies there. Phenomenal for the liver, and we'll show data as well. It actually can manage diabetes, or how about even reverse diabetes, or maybe best of all, prevent diabetes. Really good for the heart, really good for the immune system, and can actually slow the aging process. And I particularly liked your picture of Harley, where the vet said, he's actually functioning like a dog half his age, and we'll show that a little bit later. But here's the reference that I shared with you a while ago when you asked me about Harley when he had a seizure. And so I did toxicity studies on dogs, and they actually gave him a dose of 24 grams per kilogram body weight. And I'm going to convert that for you in just a moment. It's pretty fascinating that the average serving of Ganoderma that we utilize is about 250 milligrams per capsule. And what that would mean is if you have a 100-pound dog or a 100-pound human, that would be over 4,000 doses a day, every single day for 13 straight days. If we're thinking about human children, we're really fond of hot chocolates because it's a really good method to deliver Ganoderma. And so a 20-pound child would actually have to have 145 hot chocolates a day every day for 13 days. And even at that level, it wasn't toxic. So this stuff is profoundly safe. So we created a little flyer, that asked the question, should I give Ganoderma to my dog? And there's a picture of our dog, Charlie, in his younger days. In fact, Charlie moved on to, as my dad would say, to his great reward. He ultimately passed on, but we rescued him after a hurricane and had him for a long time, about 13 years. But he had developed this tumor on his leg. So we kind of blew that up from that picture. And so we had a really good vet And I took Charlie to the vet, and they did that biopsy, and they said, wow, I'm very, very sorry. That's a really aggressive cancer. And so what they wanted to do at the time was actually take off his leg right there at the shoulder. And so, that just didn't seem like a good idea to me. I didn't know at that time that they could actually get by pretty well with 3 legs. His statement was, well, we can take off the leg at the shoulder and hopefully it didn't metastasize. And I thought, you know what, that's really not what I want to do. So I started giving Charlie spore capsules. Now, he was a little less than 20 pounds. So we gave him about 3 spores a day. And his prognosis was originally 6 months, and he lived for more than 3 years at that point. And they were 3 really good years. Here's another case where this individual, and I like the most pictures, I like the before, usually on the left, and the after on the right. But it's pretty fascinating that this dog had a really aggressive lymphoma. And so if you look at that picture, that was actually the before, and that was Ganoderma spores, and then actually another human nutrition product called Ultra Inflamix for 5 days, that swelling down of his neck so profoundly. This dog was actually bitten by a rattlesnake. And so at any rate, that can be a horrible reaction. We'll show later how Ganoderma was really good at certain toxins. But basically, his wound and his the toxicity resolved with essentially no residual at all. Here's a woman that, it's not the woman, dog, it's a golden doodle. And they gave these dogs great homes, and they're apparently very, very popular breeds. So they would breed the dog. And their first litter, they had 10 puppies, which only 8 survived. Second litter, 7 puppies. I guess they all survived. They had bred it with a very powerful and well-bred, clean strain of golden doodle. And third conception did not even take because the dog had significant hormonal irregularities. They started just 2 spores a day, and this is about a 45-pound dog. And litter 3 was actually 12 healthy puppies. So think about that. All 12 had survived, and apparently the pregnancy was really easy, and it actually maintained the pregnancy, I guess as good as you can in an animal. So Brian, this one will be near and dear to your heart. This is Amadeus. And I think, you had taken a picture of maybe day 1 of that papilloma virus. And, apparently that takes times, months to get rid of, but you did topical for sure, Ganoderma spores, maybe you did some coconut oil as well. And I think I saw pictures later of you sprinkling it on the dog food, which is a really good idea. And notice that this papilloma went away really, really, really fast. And what we tell people is certainly you can sprinkle capsules on food. We also have patients that use something called OGX, which is a really good powdered shake. And it's super clean protein, grass-fed organic way. Dogs tend to do really, really well with that. And that's some of the ways that we've had people actually get Ganoderma into their dogs. Looks like someone came unmuted, so I'm going to go back to managing that for a moment and see if I can unmute. All right. So I'm going to go through some of the studies, and I kind of blew up that diagram, how Ganoderma fights cancer, protects the liver, manages diabetes, etc. So these are human studies, but to date, Ganoderma is actually proven against 11 different types of human cancer. Really, really aggressive. And if you go back and you look at the replay on this, you can freeze frame this and actually look at the PubMed ID, and you can see that anytime there's a PubMed ID, this means this is a study that was written for medical journals by doctors, reviewed by doctors. And this is the National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. So in human studies, it was studied against breast cancer, prostate cancer, inflammatory breast cancer, the bloodborne cancers, which are leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, cervical cancer, melanoma, lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer. And then also, it's so powerful, it can even block replication of the HIV virus, can completely eradicate herpes. It's really, really good for the dog's immune system. When we start looking at toxicity, they, in medicine, have used something called carbon tetrachloride to induce human liver failure. And what they know is that they can give an animal, an animal a single dose of carbon tetrachloride. and it can actually promote liver failure over the course of the next few months. So this was a study where they actually, I believe it was a mouse study, gave mice carbon tetrachloride, and once they gave them Ganoderma, the liver actually experienced a complete and total recovery. This is a strange human study. It's a case of the frozen addicts, but this was a group of people in Los Angeles that injected a synthetic heroin. And interestingly enough, they all woke up with Parkinson's the following day. And so up until from the early 1980s until 2018, December of 2018, they didn't think there was any cure for MPTP or drug-induced Parkinson's. But then you can look up the PubMed study 29991712. They actually found that Ganoderma can improve that horribly toxic Parkinson's. Here, Ganoderma was shown to reverse the toxicity of chemotherapy called STZ that was actually previously known to kill the cells of the pancreas that make insulin. So the type 1 diabetes, it can prevent and resolve. Ganoderma, this was actually a human study, prevents chemo resistance. So if it does that in human beings, it can possibly also do that in dogs. And so we know that cancer is becoming a scourge. We've seen way too many pets pass with cancer. And for those parents, I guess that's a proper term, owners, that would attempt to do chemotherapy on their dog, it would make sense to maximize it. So Ganoderma actually protects the animal while enhances the killing effect of chemotherapy. When we start looking at type 1 diabetes, Ganoderma works by the exact same mechanisms, the top diabetic drug metformin, and it's also known to prevent the death of the cells of the pancreas that make insulin and enhance beta cell regeneration, which means it can prevent type 1 diabetes. Now, this was an interesting study where they took mice and they infected their pancreas with a very popular virus called Epstein-Barr. Now, why do I call this virus popular? Well, it's estimated that half of the human population is infected with Epstein-Barr. And a recent friend whose 5-year-old daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And if he had actually been giving her Ganoderma on a daily basis, the data suggested it was at least possible that that could have prevented type 1 diabetes. So, if we can easily put this in an animal's foods or take it within our own food, why not do it on a regular basis? So Ganoderma is also known to enhance insulin release from the cells of the pancreas. It prevents the diabetes complications related to obesity, liver problems, even cancer. Ganoderma can actually promote fat loss in humans. Most animals aren't really too overweight. Their diet is more controlled and they tend to get more exercise, but pretty fascinating. We also have humans watching promote fat loss by multiple mechanisms. And when we look at how good Ganoderma can be for human diabetes, this was a woman that I treated and day one, this was day one when I saw her. She was actually scheduled to have her foot amputated because of out of control diabetes. And with hourly spores, this is what her foot looked like just 2 weeks later. You might ask, well, how in the world would you dose an animal with spores every waking hour? Well, we just put in a little piece of cheese when we were giving it to our dog, and I guarantee he looked forward to every single dose. By the way, I tell people that this picture was taken, the person was on the highest dose of insulin they'd ever been on and 6 other drugs and failing. Here they were on their lowest dose of insulin, no other drugs and thriving. And so a nice response in that foot. Ganoderma prevents complications of the diabetic eye, and it also prevents problems with the diabetic kidneys. So we're going to move on to heart health, allergies, and even slowing the aging process. So this is a study that I really, really like, and people, again, they can verify and look it up, but Ganoderma has the benefit of preventing abnormal blood clotting, which is usually the factor that's heart attacks or strokes. But it does so in a way that does not promote normal bleeding. So when they have humans on blood thinners, I know the stats on that, 1 in 9 people that take a blood thinner actually have a major bleeding episode, and that's can be a significant problem. So here was the actual language within the study, and I like to point this out because they use a really strong blood clotting agent called kynic acid. And when they gave the animals kynic acid, They were able to induce a heart attack or stroke at a dose of chinic acid that they gave. Then they wanted to find out, okay, what dose of Ganoderma would prevent that? And Ganoderma prevented it at 60 micrograms per kilogram body weight. And what that means is that, you know, I mean, even if you have a 100-kilogram dog, that's a huge dog. That might be a bull mastiff as big as they get. One capsule a day would prevent a heart attack or stroke in response to the most horrible clotting agent around. They also found that Ganoderma could, that aspirin could prevent the same problem at 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram body weight. But that dose would cause certainly gut bleeding and other challenges. So this was a human study where it showed that Ganoderma was actually really good for long-term allergy management. How do I say long-term? Most people, maybe their first couple of days of taking Ganoderma, it doesn't have a long enough effect on the immune system to stop the allergy response. But usually after a season or two, it's completely gone. Now, that's not true of everybody. Some people will have an immediate allergy response, but it's really proven for the long-term benefit. Ganoderma, this was a woman that was having an anaphylactic reaction to a bee sting. And in fact, her area was starting to close. So this gentleman, Justin Woban, actually gave her a hot chocolate. And within a matter of minutes, she was breathing a lot more normally. But here's the data. Ganoderma actually opens airways via more mechanisms than inhalers. Now, again, dogs and humans have very similar physiology and chemistry. So I don't know too many asthmatic dogs. I guess there's a few in the literature, but I think a lot of them have allergy challenges. And so this reference here, Ganoderma helps airway inflammation, allergies, and asthma. Again, that was a human study. And Ganoderma, by multiple mechanisms, is known to have anti-aging properties. So Brian, you had a lot of good pictures on your Facebook page of Harley. And I really love the statement where basically the vet showed his blood work and said, you know, this dog has the health and the biochemistry of a dog half his age. And so you also point out at age 17, even in a small breed of dog, that's pretty close to 100 years old. So for him to get that good quality of life, and no doubt that these are man's best friends. So what I might do at this moment is just pause the data and ask, does anybody here have a specific health question? And again, I'll qualify it by saying it, you know, my expertise is human health, not animal health, even though we've seen a lot of conditions benefit. Anybody either want to raise a hand, or you can potentially unmute yourself if you have a health question. Okay, not seeing any of that at the moment. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that, you know, medicinal mushrooms are getting really, really, really popular. And it's probably not too long before they're a standard part of dog food. This was an article entitled The Shroom Boom. It's easy to look up, but basically they said that this market, medicinal mushrooms, is approaching $50 billion a year. And this publication actually said that reishi-infused beverages were the most popular trend in all of 2019. So you might ask, well, what reishi-infused beverages? Well, we have coffee and tea, and we have hot chocolate, and we have detox drinks and energy drinks. And we mentioned that some of our team members, some of our business partners actually use a shake that they'll put on their dog food in a way that allows the dog to get a really good blend, grass-fed organic way, and high-quality Ganoderma to enhance the dog's health. So whenever anything becomes popular and there's an increasing market, there's people that want to fill the market. So right now, you could probably go on Amazon or, you know, just some website and just, you know, ask the question, hey, can I buy Ganoderma? And here's the cold hard facts. Most Ganoderma that's grown for commercial sales is actually grown in a plastic bag. And I actually claim that this is organic because there's no herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. But this is the Ganoderma that we use in our products, which is USDA certified organic. And this one's not USDA certified organic, but it is organic because of none of the other poisons added to it. But it's also grown in a natural environment. And what I tell people is, you know, in medicine, we study the physical exam. And what that simply means is you look at the outside of the individual to gain insight as what's happening inside the individual. And that applies to plants as well. So most people look at this and they go, yeah, I think I'd rather have this plant. So you want to buy the best quality available. Here's another amazing thing. I think we have a lot of pet lovers on here, but it's fascinating to me how many people will spend really good money to nourish their dogs and even provide good care, but they don't put the same money into their own wellness. And I'm going to encourage everybody to, enhance your own health as well as your animal's health. And then we have tons of quality certifications. I've lectured for some of the top nutrition companies in the world, and I haven't seen any that has had this level of quality certification. But one thing is there's an opportunity to get these incredible products at wholesale cost, or if you decide that this makes sense as a business, you and your family and friends and pets and everybody, then you have a chance to actually partner with us. But Albert Einstein said this. He says, if you look at nature, you'll understand everything better. So one thing we see consistently in nature is actually what I like to call branching synergy. We start out with the central nervous system and it branches down through hundreds of thousands of miles and literally provides nervous input and receives information from every cell of the body. When you look at the cardiovascular system, we start out with one vessel and it branches into 60,000 miles of blood vessels. One of my good friends and actually business mentors is Dr. Sachin Patel in Toronto. And he talks about wealth management and stability. And interestingly enough, he says most people's financial stability is about like that of a carrot. And so you have one stream of income if something happens to you. And I think I've got my video on, even though I'm not seeing my video on the screen. I had a shoulder surgery this weekend, which could be a little challenging since I function as a chiropractor, but there's a lot of reasons it's not for me. I have a really wonderful associate doctor that can manage all the physical work. On top of that, I've also built an amazing team of people sharing Ganoderma through coffee, tea, capsules, and it's created a phenomenal business. But one of the questions that Sachin likes to ask is, would you rather have your income modeled after a carrot or after an oak tree? And then he asks, when's the last time you tried to uproot an oak tree? It's really impossible. I take that and compare that to a carrot. But what I like to tell people is the way our business model works is you only need a few really solid business partners to grow an incredible team. And in this model, I like to ask, if our product is as good as it is, and it is, there's over 3,000 peer-reviewed medical studies, if it's good for humans and animals, has no toxic effects and no known drug interactions, and all those facts are true, would it be reasonable that you might find at least 5 people that say, you know what, this product is good, it makes sense, and I'd like to share it with my friends and get paid to build a team? Well, I tell people, if you can get 5 people that are interested in building the business, so let's say that takes you a year. Well, your next strategy is actually to teach those 5 each to get 5. So by year 2, you've added 25 people to your team, 30 total. Not too exciting yet. But what gets fascinating is you've already done your job. You've got your 5. You taught them how to get their 5 each. Now it's their job, these 5 people, to teach their 25 to get 5. And in the 3rd year, you add 125 people. The 4th year, you add 625 people. The 5th year, you add over 3,000 people. You add that up, you have nearly 4,000 people on your team. And I'll share some simple math with you. So if you have a really strong team, you can, that really depends on how many people you bring in. You can get up to about 8% of your total team volume. So if you have almost 4,000 people just drinking 2 cups of coffee a day, that will create an income stream for you of nearly $10,000 a month. I like to ask the question, what's the probability of income in your current job going up $10,000 a month or $120,000 a year? And most people would say that those chances are slim to none. But I can tell you firsthand that we've built a really powerful team just by sharing a really good product and probably the best delivery system ever. So coffee and tea is really a mainstay. We also have shakes that taste like liquid birthday cake. We have soap and toothpaste, things that people use every single day. And the amazing thing is people that want to join our business, they do so for $50. Now, what do you get for $50? You get a website that puts you in business in over 35 countries today, and you have the right to buy every single product that the company has at wholesale. Now, if you decide that you actually want to build a business, The company Organo actually has 3 different what they call accelerator packs. So we call them good, better, or best, bronze, silver, or gold. So US and Canadian numbers are different, but I'll use US first. So if people say, you know what, I want to start out with an accelerator pack where you get some product, you can buy $250 worth of US product, you get that much in wholesale, and now the company accelerates your earnings. If you want to accelerate your earnings faster, one-time purchase silver pack is basically $500 US. Or if you want to maximize your earnings instantly, a gold pack is $1,250 US. So as one of my mentors says, you know, this would be the equivalent of doing a job and getting paid the equivalent of, let's say, $10 an hour, or for the exact same work, getting paid $15 an hour, or again, the exact same work, $20 an hour. Now, these packs, one-time purchase, they give you enough product to start sharing and experiencing and building an amazing team if you choose to do that. So at this point, in a moment, I'll open it up to questions again, any questions about health and or business. But I also want to encourage you that this is going to be recorded and posted in our Facebook groups. You can share this with people, and if they have a pet or a human that is for their health, this is something that is safe and effective. And we certainly would welcome the opportunity to enhance people's health with this. So with that said, you can potentially either unmute yourself or raise your hand within a chat to ask a question. Any questions from anyone about anything? Anything at all?
Dr. Bob.
Yes, sir.
It's Brian here. I know there's a lot of questions when it comes to dosages. When we started, I know I did for Harley the last 2 years of his life every day with the capsules. There is no maximum or minimum per day that based on the studies that you have there. Is there?
No.
I think you muted yourself there, Dr. Rakowski there.
Thank you, Brian. Sorry about that. All right. So this was a dog study where they gave him 24 grams per kilogram body weight. And basically, you know, even if this, you know, at 250 milligrams per capsule, we're talking over 4,000 doses a day for a 100-pound dog, or just, you know, take it to a 20-pound dog, 1/5 of that, over 800 doses a day. And so even at that level, it was not shown to have any level of toxicity. So we're in 36 countries, and our products, you know, don't have any toxic warning effect on them at all. And the company's been in business for over 10 years. So the legal team is very comfortable saying, you know, this is proven phenomenally safe. It's even safe for pregnant women. And what's fascinating about that, you know, I think anybody that would be, you know, breeding a beautiful dog like this would say, you know, I want the healthiest puppies possible. But what human doesn't want the healthiest baby possible? And so if we can get our moms to be some great nutrition, then the probability of having a healthy baby is always a higher level.
And to have that control.
Looks like Carrie Ann might have a question because she unmuted herself. Carrie Ann, do you have a question?
Yes, I did. Good evening, Dr. Bob.
Good evening to you.
I wanted to ask a question. I know that the Ganoderma is considered an adaptogen.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically the question would be for, I guess, forever use or long-term use. I had someone ask that question as a concern. Basically for years on end, if they can continue using it forever, basically.
Well, it's fascinating, and I'll answer the question, I think, more for them, because I think you're pretty comfortable with the answer.
Okay.
You know, I've been involved with the company Organo for 7 years, maybe 7 years and a few months, perfect attendance in terms of doses every single day. There's people in the company that have been taking it every day for 10 plus years, or even our founder, Bernie Chua, for much longer than that. So there is no warning on either the total amount taken nor the longevity taken. So it is proven safe and effective in the long term with no warnings. Now, other herbs that have adaptogenic properties don't have the same profile, and they actually start influencing human chemistry and human function in a certain direction. And so for something like that, if you're actually pushing a process, then in time you're going to have a problem. But Ganoderma is profoundly nourishing. It has 430 unique molecules, of which are unique to the plant itself so far that have been identified. 79 of those have powerful antimicrobial action, and they work in synergy. So when you start looking at alkalizing the body, controlling the inflammatory process, preventing abnormal clotting without promoting abnormal bleeding, killing some of the worst viruses on the planet, proven against 11 different cancers, this is a wonderful, safe product with no known downside. And if we go back to the history of it, the history is not short. It's 5,000 years of human clinical use, and 5,000 years ago it was reserved for the royal family in China. So, I'm very safe with my family taking it every single day. Certainly my patients and friends as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob.
Well, looks like Shauna has unmuted herself, so she has a question. Happy beautiful day, Shauna. Or maybe she didn't mute herself. Anybody else with a question? All right, so then what I'll do is I'll just wrap up with some powerful statements of the benefits. So again, Brian, hats off to you for actually recognizing that there's a lot of people that do want to help their pets, and that clever title, but what Ganoderma proven for in dogs, which are the most popular pet, and by the way, we've used it on cats and birds and horses, is it prevents cancer in dogs. It's really good for their liver. It's good to, it says manage diabetes, but how about prevent it altogether or reverse it? Really, really good for heart health, great for the immune system, including allergies, slows the aging process. So these wonderful animals can get along better, get around better, prevent the arthritides that can happen in animals, and just simply have a long and good life. And I think that's what we wish for everybody. And I always say that we're stewards of everything that comes into our existence. We treat our animals here like they're our kids. And so we want to nourish them, and we want to give them the best environment and the best healthcare possible. And I trust that everybody that took the time to join us on that call or on this Zoom feels exactly the same way. Your marching orders are principle. Whoever invited you to this Zoom, get back to them. Let them know that, hey, you want to try some of this for maybe yourself, your family, and your pets. And let's see if we can make the world better together. So with that, I'll say good night and God bless to all.
Good night, Dr. Rakowski. Thank you so much for your time. Very much.
You're welcome. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.